she released a tweet about 37 minutes ago. It stated the WNBA and WBPA have reached an agreement on a moratorium for league business. Sources tell ESPN this is necessary because the sides had failed to reach an agreement on a CBA agreement or an extension by the January 9th deadline. So with that being said, they have come up with some type of agreement. Now, I just want to look up something real quick before we dive.
Let's not sugarcoat what just went down. The WNBA and the Players Union didn't announce a breakthrough. They announced a freeze, a so-called moratorium on league business. And if that sounds like progress to you, it shouldn't. A moratorium isn't a fix. It's not resolution. It's a temporary shutdown, a pause, a way to buy time when neither side is anywhere close to an agreement. What this really tells us is simple. After blowing past the January 9th deadline to finalize a new collective bargaining agreement, the gap between the league and the WNBPA is so wide that even basic functions like free agency are now off the table. ESPN's Ramona Shelburne reported the news Monday night, just minutes after the announcement became public. The official statement reads clean and calm. The WNBA and the WNBPA have agreed to a moratorium on league operations. But here's the plain English version of that statement. Everything is on ice because nothing meaningful has been resolved. They didn't come together, they hit stop. And until real agreement happens, the league is officially stuck in neutral.
My understanding, based off this little moratorium thing, hopefully I'm saying that right, they have decided to do, this is not giving us a 2026 season. I do want to be clear there. I believe they reached an agreement to this just a proper word to continue negotiations, if I'm reading this correctly. So as of right now, it's still basically they still don't have a WNBA CBA agreement. Now, Alexa Philippou.
And this is where everything starts to unravel. In a normal year, January 11th would mark the official launch of free agency. Teams would be issuing qualifying offers, core tags. The WNBA's version of the NFL franchise tag would be handed out. Front offices would already be laying the foundation for the 2026 season. Instead, the league has hit a hard stop. The moratorium zeroes in directly on free agency. Qualifying offers are off the table. Core designations are prohibited. No contracts can be signed. No talks can move forward. Every negotiation is locked behind a closed door. Right now, only 2 players are actually secured for 2026. Lexi Brown and Kahani Brown, the lone veterans already under contract beyond this season. Every other player is stuck waiting with no clarity and no timeline. And here's the part fans shouldn't ignore. This goes far beyond paperwork or scheduling headaches. What we're seeing is a serious fracture between team ownership and the players themselves, a breakdown at the foundation of the league.
For months, I'm gonna say, and I don't know, man. A lot of people got in the comment section of her post and now Alexa Philippou, and they're talking about it. Ramona stated, didn't make sense for teams to be offering qualifying offers, core destination, or courting free agents until there was a new CBA agreement. So I'm wondering if the players is doing this to stop free agency. That's what this tweet is saying. You know, somebody else said this is actually bad news for fans and coaches. Coaches will have to implement.
The chaos started late Sunday night. Around 11 p.m. Eastern, the league circulated its first draft of the moratorium proposal, but it didn't land the way they expected. Sources close to the talks say the players' union immediately pushed back, arguing that the language went beyond a simple pause on free agency. Let that sink in for a moment. Even the framework for hitting pause became a point of conflict. The WNBPA insisted that the extra wording be stripped out. The league came back with a revised version Monday afternoon. Only after that back and forth did the union agree to move forward. Multiple negotiation rounds, not to make progress, but just to decide how to stop the process altogether. That alone tells you how broken this dynamic has become. And despite the carefully worded public statements about ongoing dialogue and maintaining stability, the reality is obvious. This is a deadlock. The core issues remain untouched, and neither side is prepared to give an inch.
Had me thinking we were going somewhere else. Right, man, like it had got so bad, I straight had to Google what the word meant. Because I ain't gonna lie to you, I didn't even know what the damn word meant. Now, this is not a good look for the WNBA players or owners, man. Y'all still can't come up with an agreement. Y'all still can't come up with a system in place to get us a 2026 season. Because basically what y'all saying is that we still at the negotiation table. We still haven't made any progress in the current state of the whole negotiation situation. This is ugly. This is not a good look for the WNBA players. This is not a good look for the owners. And guess who suffered? The fans is suffering because
now we have to address the question everyone keeps asking. What does this mean for the 2026 season? And the uncomfortable truth is that there are no real answers yet. This moratorium doesn't promise a season. It doesn't create a new timeline. It doesn't offer a roadmap out of the mess. All it does is lock everything in place while both sides try to figure out their next move. One response on Alexa's post summed it up perfectly. This is bad news, especially for fans and coaches. When you break it down, the logistical nightmare becomes obvious. Coaching staffs could be forced to install complicated systems in a rushed off-season with minimal time to develop players or build chemistry. That kind of scramble shows up immediately on the court, and not in a good way. The longer this standoff drags on, the less runway teams will have, even if an agreement eventually comes together. And then there's the scenario no one wants to talk about out loud: replacement players. People joke about the replacements with Keanu Reeves, but this would be anything but entertaining. If ownership chooses to move forward without the current player group, a makeshift league becomes a real possibility. And make no mistake, that outcome would do massive damage to the WNBA's credibility and the momentum it's worked so hard to build.
Clarity. And it seemed like don't none of y'all know what the hell y'all doing, and we just sitting here now. Now we're just sitting here day in and day out. Y'all keep, once again, donkey in a carrot, bruh. This looking very donkey in a carrot-ish. I just gotta be honest here with you guys. Let me see what Annie Constable said. Maybe Annie Constable might give us some more clarity on this. She stated the WNBA and WPA have agreed to a moratorium for league business specific for free agency. Put simply, qualifying offers or core destinations and signings will be paused for. So basically, like what
makes this situation especially maddening is the timing. The WNBA just wrapped up its most successful season ever. Caitlin Clark's rookie campaign ignited record-breaking ratings and packed arenas like never before. Every broadcast saw viewership milestones shattered. Expansion teams are on the way. Media rights deals are being renegotiated at higher values across the board. By almost every measure, the league is booming. And yet, behind the scenes, the business side is teetering. Players are pushing for a bigger piece of that expanding revenue pie. Better pay, improved travel conditions, enhanced benefits. Meanwhile, ownership is focused on protecting profit margins and keeping tight control over league operations. It's a textbook labor standoff, but the timing couldn't be worse. The current collective bargaining agreement is already operating under what the league keeps calling status quo conditions. That term has basically become a punchline at this point. Status quo is supposed to mean the old agreement stays in place while negotiations continue. But after days of hearing that phrase, it's clear the old terms aren't holding up. At some point, something has to give.
The time. Now, the union felt it contained unnecessary language beyond simply delaying the free agency. According to a source familiar with the negotiation, it looked to remove that league in. And it goes on to say the WBPA received a response from the league Monday afternoon and accepted it. The motion will apply specifically to free agency. So basically they're stopping free agency, man, including the sending of qualifying offers or core destination signing and all negotiation. The motion will end when a new collective bargaining agreement is rectified. So as of right now, they're using big words telling us it still ain't no damn 2026 season. Now the glitch in the system is the results of from January 9th when the deadline paused and they did not reach a CBA agreement. Now, typically during free agent period,
let's break down exactly what's on hold right now, because the freeze hits different players in different ways. Qualifying offers normally go out to free agents whose contracts are expiring, either players with 4 years of service or those finishing the 4th year of their rookie deals. These offers let teams match any contract another team proposes, turning these players into restricted free agents instead of unrestricted. Core designations are even stricter, basically the WNBA's version of the franchise tag. A team can apply a core tag to a player, locking them in for another year at a predetermined salary and completely blocking them from testing the market. market. Players dislike it because it limits their earning power and mobility, but teams rely on it to hold on to stars when negotiations stall. Right now, all of that is frozen. Players expecting to hit free agency are stuck in limbo. Teams trying to secure their top talent can't move. The entire offseason engine has screeched to a stop, and the longer this standoff lasts, the worse the chaos will be when it finally ends. Imagine trying to cram an entire offseason's worth of trades, signings, and roster moves into just a 2-week window. That's exactly the nightmare scenario teams are facing.
This period of status quo, which I'm so tired of hearing about the status quo thing, because we're not I don't know what the hell they doing, man, but this is ugly because we constantly hearing about the status quo thing. We already talked about the status quo time after time again for the last 3 damn days. I don't want to hear about the status quo no more. I want to hear about a deal getting done. And as of right now, a deal is not getting done. This is a very, very ugly situation, and it don't look like it's going to get better anytime soon. I want to know what y'all thoughts is down in the comment section right now. Keep them bills on. I will be back with more content.
So where does this leave us? Let's separate the official story from what's actually happening. The narrative being fed to the public is that both sides are committed to reaching a fair deal, continuing constructive talks, and that the moratorium exists simply to provide breathing room without the pressure of free agency deadlines. On paper, it sounds reasonable, a measured way to handle a complex situation, but the reality tells a very different story. The January 9th deadline came and went with no agreement, not even close. So much so that the league couldn't even handle basic offseason operations afterward. The moratorium wasn't a choice. It was a necessity to prevent total operational paralysis. And the first version of the moratorium itself became a point of dispute, requiring multiple rounds of edits before the union would even sign off. These aren't the actions of parties that are near a deal. Zooming out, the pattern over the last 2 years makes this even clearer. Negotiations for a new CBA have been ongoing for 24 months. The deadlines were known, the time was ample, and yet here we are. Past the deadline, no resolution, no clear path forward. The players' grievances are real. WNBA salaries, even for stars, are a fraction of what male athletes earn in comparable leagues. Travel conditions remain subpar, with commercial flights the norm while NBA players travel by charter. The league's revenue-sharing model favors ownership heavily, even in the wake of unprecedented growth. These concerns aren't unreasonable. Ownership's concerns are legitimate too. For most of its history, the WNBA has operated at a loss, subsidized by the NBA. The recent boom is encouraging, but questions remain about sustainability. Giving players a substantially larger slice of revenue without a proven long-term model is risky. The problem is that both sides are negotiating from principle rather than pragmatism. Players feel undervalued and underpaid after decades, and incremental improvements aren't enough. They want transformative change. Ownership has invested heavily in a league that has historically struggled to turn a profit and isn't willing to guarantee money they can't be certain exists. These positions aren't irreconcilable, but bridging the gap requires compromise. And right now, neither side seems willing to give enough. What worries me most is timing. The WNBA is riding a wave of momentum. Caitlin Clark brought attention to the league on a scale it's never seen. Casual fans tuned in, sponsors increased investments, and media coverage skyrocketed. But momentum is fragile. If the 2026 season is delayed or canceled, that progress evaporates. Fans move on, sponsors get nervous, media coverage reverts to treating the league as niche. Everything gained in 2025 could be lost. And here's the frustrating part. Both sides should understand this. Players' leverage depends on the league's rising popularity. If that collapses, their bargaining power diminishes. Ownership should recognize that this surge represents a once-in-a-generation chance to solidify the WNBA as a major league. Missing that window could be catastrophic. Why hasn't a solution been reached? Partly this is the inherent challenge of labor negotiations. Agreements cover dozens of moving parts, from salaries and revenue sharing to working conditions and playoff structures. Aligning on all of them simultaneously is extremely difficult, but ego and mistrust also play a huge role. Players don't trust ownership to fairly distribute revenue or prioritize their well-being. Ownership doesn't trust the players to understand the financial realities of running a professional league. That mutual skepticism skepticism makes every point harder because neither side believes the other is negotiating in good faith. The moratorium buys time, but time alone won't solve this. What's needed is a fundamental shift in mindset. Both sides must stop treating negotiations as a zero-sum game. One side's gain doesn't have to be the other side's loss. The recent growth shows there's more revenue to share. The question is how to divide it fairly while safeguarding the league's long-term future. My prediction: this standoff will drag on for at least another month, probably longer. Expect more missed deadlines, more carefully worded statements about productive negotiations and status quo conditions, and growing frustration from fans desperate to know if the season will happen. All while sponsors and media partners push for certainty. A deal will happen. It won't give the players everything they want, and it won't satisfy ownership entirely, but it should be enough to get the 2026 season underway. The real question is whether that compromise arrives in time to protect the momentum the league built in 2025. Or if delays cost the WNBA the once-in-a-generation opportunity it just earned. Because here's the truth, the league may never see another Caitlin Clark, a player who not only dominates on the court, but also captures mainstream attention and draws casual fans into the game. Letting that chance slip away over a labor dispute would rank as one of the biggest missteps in professional sports history. So to both the players and ownership, it's time to figure this out. Reach the compromise. Strike the deal. Every day that passes without resolution is a day gambling with the future of women's professional basketball. And that's a risk the league can't afford to take. What's your take? Will this get resolved in time for a full 2026 season? Or are we facing delays? Maybe even a canceled season? Drop your prediction in the comments. Tell me who you think holds more responsibility here, the players or ownership, and hit subscribe to stay updated because this story isn't over. Far from it.